quite an interview with Michael Yon, and we talked about drugs and the drug wars, and I mean the drug wars. We're not talking about the 70s. We're not talking about the 80s. We're talking about all of it, is what I'm saying. We're not specifying on the 70s or the 80s or even the freaking opium poppies in Afghanistan. It's all tied together, and we're going to go into it. But I realize that I'm going to just have an in-depth coffee talk with you where I take you down that rabbit hole that when you see the end of it, you start to realize that just about everything that's happened in the United States of America, going all the way back to, of all places, not the colonialization of the Americas, but actually the colonialization of the East Indies, and especially the East India Company. And people like Elihu, Yale, which Yale University is named after. And you go down that rabbit hole with the Skull and Bones, and how Skull and Bones, and the president that I hate the most. Yeah, you think it's Clinton. It's not Clinton. It's actually George H.W. Bush. Because of that guy, all that we did, fighting communism, kicking communism's ass in Latin America, and it's the secret war still. Nobody knows about what we did, what kind of victory it was. Everybody just hears about the massacres committed by the government. Think about that. How does the media paint things? And how does all the focus seem to be on the Middle East right now? I haven't talked about my publishing experience with Random House and how if I had written my book, because I was proposing a book about Central America about 10, 15 years ago. Random House, went to the editor. Editor loved it. But he said, you know what? Nobody wants to hear about Latin America. We want to hear about the Middle East. So for those of you people who may think that you're like representing freedom of the press and you're writing on the left side and you're, quote, a liberal, you're full of crap. You have no idea what you're talking about. Because it's all the same monster. Just in the same way that they've hijacked our government. And we're having these wars back and forth, liberal, conservative, bullshit. It's all bullshit. It's all in order to keep us divided, to keep us fighting each other, while the real enemy is playing the puppet master with our politicians, with our media leaders, with our military now. There are people who stand up, but then they get freaking knocked down immediately. Think about that. But anyway, I did have some technical difficulties. I live in the country. I'm pretty sure it wasn't Yon with the internet connection, because Japan is like, it's like when I was working in Korea. I mean, in Korea it was like 10 times better than it was in the US, and Japan is just the same. So it's me in the country, my fault, but I did edit it enough that you should be able to get the whole gist, and I've spliced in content to really give you the meat. And I'm going to go even further when I delve even deeper into this attack on the United States. It's on the world. It's these players who use drugs. They know the impact of the drugs, how they use the drugs to first hit a society. Then the reaction is to, we got to stop this. Then that brings in the government. The government does the prohibition. The prohibition, what does it do? It enriches the mafias. The mafias are the ones who deposit their money in the banks. And the bankers don't give a damn where that money comes from. Think about that. These globalist bankers in the Cayman Islands. When you learn about things like with I just spaced on his name, but the author of all the James Bond. God, I'm just spacing out. He was with SOE. He knew about all this stuff and how the British, it's the City of London, it's the Bank of England. They run all this stuff. They get us into these world wars. They've got us into this war right now. And people say, it's all the Zionists, it's all the Jews. It's all the Israelis. The Israelis are just stupid fools. They're playing into this game. They think they're fighting for their religious beliefs or the protection of Israel. No, they aren't. I guarantee, man, they're going to be in Patagonia. Within the next 10 years, all the Israelis are going to be in Patagonia trying to survive. And then they're going to do the same shit that they did in the Middle East. Because that's what they do. They stir shit up. That's their job. That's how they play. And the Rothschilds and the Bank of England and all the other players, they play this game, and they've been playing this game for thousands of years because it goes further than Amschel Bauer and the Rothschilds. Think about that. But drugs is how you destroy a society, and you profit by it because you create the laws. You get the law. You lobby the lawmakers, and then the lawmakers create these laws, and then it jacks up the price of the drugs. That's how you just jack up something that somebody wouldn't even think about buying or even be attracted to because it wouldn't be so illicit. But then when it's illicit, everybody wants to look at it. Oh, I want to try it. I want to see that. Oh, yeah, I tried some pot. Yeah. It's a stupid game. So hopefully it's a good enough intro into what I'll be talking about later. Jan and I talking about this. And again, I'm really bad about asking you for you to like, subscribe, share with your friends, and comment. What are your thoughts about this? What do you thought about the drugs? How far would you go? Lee Kuan Yew went all the way. And I was raised under that. I was living in Singapore in the 70s when he started that. I remember, I grow long hair now. I was not allowed to grow hair that touched my collar when I was living in Singapore. And it wasn't just because I was going to a private school, I went to the Singapore American School. Everybody in the country had to have their haircuts. If you came into the country, Little River Band, think about there's that little song in his, I forget which song it is, but in Little River Band, they talk about going to Singapore and cut their hair. Yeah, they had a barber at the airport. And the reason is because Lee Kuan Yew thought it was all the hippies who were running the drugs and who were all the heroin users, when in actuality it was a close crop skinny guys who were, he talks about they're selling their families and they've already sold their souls. So enjoy the show. And again, like, subscribe, share it with your friends. Get thought-provoking. Ask people. Don't frickin' go with the frickin' modus operandi of everybody else. Don't be sheeple. Ask questions. And if it's an uncomfortable answer, well, maybe it's an uncomfortable answer for a reason. On that note, see you at the end.
Hey, I'll read you a paragraph from a 1615 book about, it says, an advice how to plant tobacco in England. London, 1615. So I'm skipping to the third paragraph in regard to, we had been talking about people, adding stuff to weed. Yeah. They used to call tobacco weed. His trenchant presentation of the conditions which then prevailed in the existing commerce must have proved disturbing to thoughtful readers. The tobacco trade, too, was almost entirely in the hands of the Spaniards, and Spain was still England's enemy in the popular consciousness. The Spanish planters were charged by the author with disgusting and dangerous methods, and then probably exaggerated, of altering spoiled, that's a parenthetical, probably exaggerated. Okay, I'll start with that sentence over. The Spanish planters were charged by the author with disgusting and dangerous methods, parenthetical, probably exaggerated, of adulterating spoiled leaves. If one bought tobacco at home, it was, most often, from the shops of scheming apothecaries who sophisticated their wares. Worst of all, the best leaf cost its weight in the finest silver. Anyway, this book, I found these 5 books here in Tokyo. And so this one is 1507 to 1615. The one I'm holding is 1615 to 1698. And these take it up to 1942. So this is just the history of tobacco. I got a huge amount of books on tobacco and opium and cannabis and all that, alcohol, all the likely suspects.
and that's the thing about these books, is that they're already back then they were noticing how that something was, it seems like it was totally natural, was being used by the native peoples in whatever areas they were in. But then once it gets picked up by, quote, the Europeans, it then gets modified. And we see those modifications more and more. And actually, instead of just being used for medicinal reasons, it's being used for abusive reasons, which is as a extracurricular or some type of distraction from their life, or what? What are you getting on this?
Oh, it's exactly the same thing. And people will continue to say, well, no, it's got medicinal purposes, man. Don't you understand? You're like, okay, whatever. You're not doing it for that. You're doing it to get high. And first of all, whatever dope you're smoking is quite literally, you know how many fallacies I hear about. Let's go to cannabis. They'll say arguments are, what about alcohol, man? It's like, yeah, alcohol too. That's one of the ways that Americans wiped out Native Americans. All these books are about Native Americans. I've got a whole huge amount of it. This isn't all about that's Panama Canal stuff right there. But I've got hundreds of books on Native Americans and the ways that we did these things. Anyway, but one of the main weapon with taking out the Indians was firewater. It's just whiskey, right?
Yeah.
But like when let's go over to cannabis. There's people that will. Right now, the reason I bring up cannabis is like right now I see cannabis being deployed as a weapon in many countries like Thailand. They're issuing thousands of licenses for these cannabis shops. Now, we've gone in there. This is not the cannabis that it's like smells sickening. It's not some weed that you would see grown in the backwoods of Nepal like I've seen quite a lot. It's something else. You look at it through Masako and I have been in a lot of these cannabis shops in Thailand and other places like Netherlands and looking at these things. But the point is it's funny how many misconceptions there are. For instance, young people tend to think, hey, you don't know anything because you're above the age of like 18 or something, right? Let me tell you what. If you're below the age of 100, you're a child. If you're below the age of 300, you are a child when it comes to the history of these use of these opium and alcohol and cannabis. If you're 300 years old or less, you are a child when it comes to this, right? So, all these things that they come up with, you don't understand, man. It's actually, if you call marijuana dope as an example, they'll say, you don't even know what dope is. It's like, okay, again, you haven't studied anything. But the point is that, or they'll say, cannabis doesn't make people violent. That's alcohol. Firefights I've been in national, those guys smoke dope like Bob Marley. The Taliban and the A&A guys. And I've been out with a lot with Israelis. Some of the most violent people I've seen on earth are Israelis. Just as a general statement. And they smoke dope again, like Bob Marley. They smoke huge amounts. They're targeted with this. I think they're actually targeted with it. So I think that they're actually anyway. The point is the word assassin came from hashing. Because they were training assassins with hash, right? Yeah. And they would use hash to get them in the right state of mind, and they made assassins. So they started calling them hashins, right? So so the idea that any of this is new is completely false, and the only people that would even say that have zero idea about anything that's going on. And the idea that the Chinese were just these big victims of the Opium War, they were victims, but at the same time they were doing it to others before that war with the British, and they were doing it during the war, and they still do it with opium, right? Yeah. So it's not like this is a common weapon around the world. And let's talk about bars real quick, if you don't mind. Yeah. That's why you see a lot of old intelligence guys, they open bars. Yeah. Why? They open bars. That's where they get their intel from. Yeah. If a farmer wants to buy, and let's say he's a pernicious farmer and not a good farmer, but let's say he wants to buy, he knows that he might open a bar in the farmer town, where all the farmers go. He'll open a bar in there, gather intelligence about the other farms, find out which farmers are alcoholics. Every Christmas, every birthday, every anniversary, you're going to get you're going to get a case of whiskey, right? He's going to drunk you down and buy your farm, right? This is an old game. Literally opening bars to gather intelligence and to find out who's addicted to the alcohol and who's got property you want to get from them. And then you put them on the Christmas, the birthday, the anniversary. You whiskey them up. The next thing you know, you're buying their property. These are old games. It's done, between Europeans and between Chinese and Thais. I found this book from it was President Grant's in his volume 29 of his letters. I've got 32, all 32 of the books, and in I think it's volume 29, he's talking about how the Chinese were using opium as a weapon against the Siamese, the Thais, we call them Thais now. Yeah, so that was in 1878 that he wrote that. You know what I mean? This is old stuff. And I mean, and it's big, it's huge, and it's global. And as you mentioned this book, which I haven't read yet, but you mentioned this book and I got it. I haven't read it yet though. Can you see it?
Yeah, here we go. So yeah. No, that was the book that I turned you on to, but it's a full.
But I haven't read it yet.
Yeah, it's a full volume. That sucker's a monster. You can't really tell when it's an ebook.
Smaller?
Or is it large print on that thing?
Okay.
No, the one that I got on an iBook, it's like I just looked through it and it doesn't look as big on the thing. That's normal. Wow, that's normal text. Huh. That's interesting. But it's very well researched. I mean, as I was telling you about it.
It opened right to this, the dope lobby. The dope lobby.
Exactly. That's how they've been doing it. And that's what I was going to ask you about. What's your understanding of how they weaponize all the various types of drugs? When we say weaponize it against a society, how do you break that down for the common person?
Many ways to weaponize them. There's many ways to weaponize it, actually. It's like yeah, I mean, there's one is just for bulk brainwashing.
Yeah.
Or bulk reduce some land from start doing business with them, trading in beaver pelts or whatever for whiskey and whiskey them up and just basically you dissolve their culture. When I'm down with the Embra Indians, and actually, in the last few years, they've started to drink a lot of whiskey. One of the tribal leaders, his name is Francisco Agape. He's a mayor of 28 villages, I think. In Washington D.C., talking with congressmen and stuff. He's like,
I lost you.
Kicked off.
Now it's clear.
Something.
Damn.
How far did we go?
We went pretty well. It's still recording. It's popped back on again. I don't know why this is doing. Oh, okay. Let me freaking pop that over. See if that worked. Huh?
I wonder if it's something that we're saying.
No, now it's fine. It's freaking Oh, no. Well, about this time out here in the country, people start. I'm going to keep the smaller screen though, so that it's maybe that has an effect on it. But you seem to be okay on yours. It's really, man. See, the internet connection is unstable, and that's on my side, I assume, or it's on your side. Is your internet? Well, Japan's
been good. I've been on.
Yeah.
And it's been good all day, so yeah.
This time of the day here, it starts to go down. That's kind of. We'll see.
All right, so we'll give it a shot again. But
I've still got the rest of it. We're still on. We're still on. So
I wonder if it's recording well, though. Is it recording well? Because this is not live, right? This is recorded.
This is all recording. Yeah.
Is people just make money off of it? I mean, that's not necessarily weaponized, but they I mean, for a lot of people, it's just a profit thing. People buy it, so they sell it. Yeah. For the common drug dealer, that's what it'll be about. But for other people, if they want to recruit prostitutes, what do? They get them drugged. They get the girls or boys or whatever drugged up, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, so they do it for. Recruiting people to do crime, recruiting to, girls or boys doing pornography or whatever, they drug them up, right? And before you know it, their whole life revolves around drugs and pornography, right?
Yep.
And so And so, I mean, that's just a common thing. That's more on a tactical level. But on a more strategic level, if you want to wipe out an entire, like weaken an entire country, you're going to open that industry across their country, right?
Yeah.
And it like happened to many peoples in the past, right?
Yeah.
And like the vodka belt, right? You know, in with Russia and Finland and all those countries, you know, they were dumbed down and just doing their communist plodding along. I used to live in Poland for a couple of years. In those days, they drank a lot of vodka. It was really diminished their collective mind. They were smart people, but you could tell they weren't functioning at the highest level because they were on that vodka so much, right?
Yeah.
It just, there's no chance. But what I'm getting to is, if you want to dumb down collectively a culture, you drug them up, alcohol them up, you know, drunk them up, drug them up, and prescribe them up, and the next thing you know, you've got a culture whose IQ is some significant portion less than it should be, and people are living from high to high, not even day to day, but from high to high, right? And so they're living this little emotional, you know, their little wave, and you know, and they're not effective. They're not going to stand up and pay attention to what's going on in the world around them. They're more focused on their internal state of, you know, bliss, you know, which is fleeting, because as you know, these things won't last. They might have bliss for a while, but these things end in tragedy.
Yeah. Now, we had talked about this, and you actually asked me whether you could pass what I thought about drugs in the Navy SEALs, and you sent it over to Prince. What is your understanding of how drugs are used in the military, especially as PEDs, as performance enhancement drugs, and the effects of it?
When I was in, to my knowledge, nobody was doing it.
I don't find that with Green Berets. I don't find that
maybe
with Green
some were doing.
Berets. Yeah, I don't find any abuse by Green Berets, but I found a lot of it in the SEAL team community. It floored me. I mean, it floored me. And I actually did a cut from Sean Ryan talking about his experience, and he said something which I had not heard that term in 20 years, 25 years, which was a key bump. Do you know what a key bump is? You know what a key is?
Key bump? No.
A key of cocaine? It's a kilo of cocaine.
Oh wow!
You're not taking a gram. I didn't. I would do like, I mean, it's always different, but normally what I would do are like key bumps. I can't even believe I'm fucking saying this shit. But I would like dip a key into the bag and then just one up each nostril, and I'd probably do that, I don't know, 6 times an hour, maybe more.
Jesus, an hour.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then
every 10 minutes.
You know, at home,
oh yeah.
And that was the terminology of the 80s. And okay, so we both knew you're really good friends with Scotty. I knew Scotty through meeting him in the 80s when he was training. And then I reconnected with him when he was selling his videotapes, his training videotapes. And then the last time I talked to him was 2 weeks before.
Talking about Scott Helvenston. Yeah.
Scott Helvenston, yeah.
Scott Helvenston. Yeah, he was the youngest Navy SEAL. I went to high school with him.
Yeah, you went to high school with him.
You know, continuing to, you know, to taunt them and make fun of them. I'm going to keep doing it. It's working. Why should I stop? Why should I stop?
4 Americans were pulled from the flames, poked, prodded, and beaten. One charred body was tied behind a car and dragged through the streets. A procession that included children. 2 mangled corpses were hanged on a bridge over the Euphrates River.
We had a mutual friend who I'm not going to mention the name, but it's really interesting, his ex's last name. But they were both in the SEALs together. And I was told about a time that this individual was in Colombia and they were doing an interdiction, and they actually had leftovers from it and they were using it, of cocaine. That they did an interdiction against the FARC or one of the cartels, you know, at that time was Pablo Escobar. And mentions to me, oh yeah, so I took a key, which is to take a key Actually take a key and dip that up and then snort it. And what I find is that in order to get through buds, that it's actually, if you ask for it, they will give you a type of amphetamine. And the way I learned about it is when I was going through the Salvadoran Navy SEAL training course in El Salvador in '86.
That's pretty wild. I had no idea that they. Yeah, I need to ask some SEAL friends about that.
You got to ask him about it, because what I find is that because of that, it affects the brain, and that's why you have certain issues that because like I did a lot of work, for PTS as a counselor. So I'd work with Green Berets and I'd work with Navy SEALs, and I noticed there was a major difference between the two.
Very big difference.
Yeah.
Very big difference.
Yeah.
It like pops off the page to me. Pops off the page. Yeah.
And when you see how much drug use there is in the SEAL community, and it was written about, and there's a Business Insider article all about PEDs, and that's something new. I never heard about cocaine or whatever amphetamine being used as a PED, but this is actually historical, because like the Germans, they came up with, was it Percocet or whatever the brand name was it, but that was crystal meth. So, I mean, it was kind of good that a lot of Germans got killed during World War II, because they would have been just a bunch of meth addicts after the war. But we had guys who were coming back from World War II flying B-17s, and a lot of them got addicted to Benzedrine. They got addicted with, which in the, we were raised in the 70s and we heard about bennies. And like, you stayed away from drugs like that, like bennies, because that's what the bikers.
Remember that song "Benny and the Jets" or something? Was that what that was about?
No. That was
what was that about?
That was some. Well, it might have been. I Benny and the Jets. Yeah, that was
that Elton John or something.
Elton John.
Benny and the Jets.
Dang,
So many of these songs are about drugs.
Yeah.
So many of these songs are openly about drugs, or they,
But you look at how it's used in the military, and then you have the effects of that and how it affects, because it is changing the chemistry of your brain, the actual makeup of your brain, that you're changing how your brain works when you get out.
Right.
And we've looked at those things.
Right.
And when you see that effect, and then you see the large scale, so we're talking about tactics, which is where they're messing with people go through the military, they're messing with people just in high school, and then you see the effect of how they bring in a drug, and we're going all the way back to like opium in China, and they're getting practice, with Lord Palmerston. You remember Lord Palmerston? He was the guy that brought up gunboat diplomacy. He was known for that back in the 1800s, and Lord Palmerston was basically like the king of, under Scots Rite, the Scottish Rites and Freemasonry, and bringing in the commerce of drugs through the opium, but then taking it further. And there's a model, and that's the model we were talking about. These people are not creative. It's worth checking out how they take this thing where they bring in the drugs, they affect the society. The society responds in illegalizing it, because it's just gotten so out of hand, right? So now the government's going to take over, and the way they're going to respond is they bring in law enforcement, and all that. What that actually does is it monetizes it, just like with alcohol, during the Prohibition in the United States. So alcohol, everybody had alcohol, and they tested it in Canada, because Prohibition was actually in Canada before it came down to the United States in the 20s. They did it from like right after like 1915 until 1919 in Canada against alcohol. And then they stopped in 1919, and then we took it on in 1920 until the Great Depression. And when that happened, it took something that was just normal, you could buy cheaply, and nobody even thought about it. It then brought in all this money that then started funding all these criminal gangs. Like the mafia was nothing. And even Meyer Lansky, you know about Meyer Lansky, the guy who was the Jewish mafia guy. And he's supposedly associated with the assassination of John F. Kennedy. And it revolves around the idea that Meyer Lansky, most of the Italian mafia did not want to touch drugs. They just stuck with alcohol, right, since Al Capone. But Meyer Lansky is the one who started playing with opium and especially heroin. And by the time he started, was it 1928? By the time he died, I forget when that was, he had $300 million. Him personally. I mean, from poverty. and that model, you'll be reading about that in Dope Inc. That they
Right.
talk about that. And it was just like, so the drugs don't really matter. It's just a way for them to get richer. The richer that they get, it goes to the bankers. And you'll see the one that I just read about today is freaking James Bond.
Look, it says Dope Inc., the book that drove Henry Kissinger and the Anti-Defamation League crazy.
Yeah.
And
They took out
Defamation
Nixon.
League.
They took
There's
out
some
Nixon because
characters.
remember, he created DEA. He's the one who created DEA, and then they went after him. It's crazy. It's wild. And you think this can't, I mean, this is kind of wild. This is too wild. It can't be true. But then you start adding up the numbers, and it's like, oh my God. And it's just like you're talking about how this is, we think of it as just like a antisocial kind of thing. But these guys are bankers. When we start thinking strategically like bankers,
Oh, this is big business.
This is
big business.
yeah. And it's like we're just like easy kills for these guys.
They don't fly first class. They fly in their own jets.
They go and they have their fleet of jets. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm like looking at this, and it's just like, you know, I talk about my childhood, you know, in Singapore, where I was raised in Singapore when Lee Kuan Yew started the capital punishment for having 10 grams or more of heroin.
Also have one of the highest rates of capital punishment.
Yes, that's for drugs.
That's for drugs.
Yeah, and we have
Because you think drugs deserve to be treated with the maximum punishment.
If we could kill them 100 times, we would, because you destroy whole families. It's terrifying to see, because you're then drug dependent. You steal, you cheat, you rob your own parents. I mean, it's soul destroying, and they come in knowing that death, if they are found with this goods on them, but the rewards are so great.
You don't.
And they try very unusual people. Women from Africa, big mammies come to sell clothes. And in between the clothes are kilos of heroin.
And if you bring heroin into Singapore,
You hang.
you hang.
You hang. Anything beyond 10 grams, you hang. Below 10 grams, maybe you
If
can
you are
say,
convicted of bringing in more than 10 grams of heroin,
you hang.
you hang.
That's right.
After a jury trial.
Yes, of course. No jury trial. Judge.
Judge.
Yeah.
Judge listens to the evidence presented,
Yes, of course.
and if he says you're guilty, you hang.
You hang. And they still come. Unbelievable.
Well, do you
the-
believe capital punishment is a deterrence or not?
Without capital punishment, our transshipment rate as a drug center would quadruple or quintuple.
Because you're right on the passageway.
Yes, and our internal consumption would go up by a multiple of 10.
And like I had told you earlier, that a friend of mine at Ulupan Singapore American School, his older brother who was up there in high school at Kings Road, he got popped for more than 10 grams. He had more than 10 grams. He was going to sell heroin at the school.
Oh.
And so if he wasn't American, he would have been hanged.
How
He would
old
have been
was he?
hanged. Yeah.
How old was he?
What?
How old was he?
He was like 16, 17. I was probably like, we're both the same age. We were probably like,
Right.
9? We were like 9, 10 years old. He was like 16, 17. And it ended up that he lucked out.
When he got caught.
What's that?
He got caught when he was 6. Did they cane him or anything?
No, they deported him. He lucked out. They deported him. But if he wasn't American and didn't come from a family that had enough, I guess, power with the embassy, they would have at least given him life, or they would have for sure would have freaking hanged him, because they hang everybody else, and they've been hanging everybody else. I mean, it's just like,
And you know what? Whenever I go to Singapore, I don't have to worry about drug addicts all over the place stabbing me in the back, literally.
yeah,
Or stepping over their shit on the street,
Yeah.
and all the running people over with their cars. You know what I mean? I know people get upset with that harsh treatment, but I don't, because we have to deal with the drug addicts. I mean, maybe there's a better way besides hanging, but the bottom line is this weakness, this so-called freedom to be a drug addict and live under bridges and kill people all the time for drugs, break into their homes and everything else. No, it's not good. No. And if men stood up, it wouldn't be a problem. No, instead it's like, oh no, you got to understand he has family problems. Well, don't bring your family problems and make it our problem.
Yeah.
Right? By selling drugs in the school. Selling drugs in the school. They should have taken him out and caned his ass, right?
Yeah.
I don't care if you're 16 or 17. When you and I were 16 or 17, guess what? You knew not to jump off a bridge, right?
Yeah.
You knew not to you knew not to put you knew not to take a shower in gasoline and light bottle rockets, right?
Yeah.
You knew not to do that, right? And so don't do that.
Yeah.
That will get you killed, right?
Yeah.
And if they still want to do it, it needs to be man. That's another problem we have in the West is that the people are treated like children and act like children. They're 30 years old, talking like they're some child, right?
Yeah.
They're like 30 years old, like, as if, talking like a child. Look, when I was 18 years old, I was in Green Beret training. When Scott Helvenston, we both knew, when he was 17, he was graduating SEAL training. We went to high school together, right?
Yeah. And he was a year younger than us. He was born in 65. He was born in 65. So he was actually, I mean, think about that. I mean, for him to make that kind of decision, that was wild.
He was a junior when I was a senior.
Yeah.
He went on teen. He's a SEAL, right?
Yeah. Yeah, man.
He was a stud in high school. You know what I mean? And the thing is when I was 19, I was graduate, not a child. You know what I mean? I was not a child at all. And I was, of course, you're not fully mature yet. Your brain is not fully mature yet. But at the same time, I was expected to do man stuff in man ways. Because guess what? When you're going into Army stuff, you screw up, you can die right there on the spot and take your team with you, right? So, I mean, so it's man stuff. And 18, 17, 16, 17, 18, we had 16-year-olds in Civil War. They were loading cannons in combat, dude. They were men. You know what I mean? They were men.
Yeah.
And this idea that oh no, they're young and they're not responsible. That's the problem. You don't hold them responsible. Gravity will hold them responsible. That's why people don't jump off bridges onto rocks. You know what I mean? Not often anyway. If they do, that's a different problem. But the point is the whole drug thing is destroying the United States.
It is. Yeah. Now you mentioned, but see, here's the thing. It comes back. I've been saying that if this is going to change, it's not going to change from the top down because we've had drug wars. We've had all these things that all they've done is actually make certain divisions and administrations and companies very rich, but it hasn't stopped the drugs. And that was the reason I was going to ask you.
No, it starts just like you and me going. It starts just like you and me going, that's bad. And if you do that, I'm going to think you're a pile of crap.
And you're an idiot.
Americans When enough Americans go, no, it's not cool. You're just an idiot. You're just an idiot. Get out of here. I don't want to see your face, right? And when enough American men stand up and say, no, it's not okay. And if you're a professor in university and you think it's okay to smoke pot, I'm going to say, where's your skateboard? You know, as one of my old Green Beret teammates, Danny Howe, once said about a professor, you know what I mean? It's like, where's your skateboard? You know, you're a professor. Okay. So what are you, a child? Right? No, it's not okay. It's not, and you're not getting enlightenment. I don't buy that crap. You're a dope addict and you're trying to justify it to me. Look at Doper Joe Rogan, Elon Musk. Does anybody really think Elon Musk is that guy doing the Boring Company, shoot off to Mars, SpaceX, all this other stuff, but he spends his time smoking dope?
They're
doesn't add up.
They're actors, man. They're actors. Yeah.
The math, the math only adds up to dope heads. It doesn't add up to people who are not high, right? It's just, he's just not that guy. He's an actor, what you just said.
And the thing about it is, look at who they hang out with, and you see them at these dinners, and it's like, but they're part of like Silicon Valley, and it's all these elites who are at Silicon Valley, or some group that they want to have Joe Rogan or Elon Musk as the front for them in the background. And you've been living in Asia long enough to understand who's really in power. If you see them, they're not in power. It's the guys behind the guys that you're seeing on TV, et cetera, right?
It's a hidden hand.
It's
as
the
they say
hidden
in
hand.
Thailand.
Yeah, I mean, shoot, The Wizard of Oz. That's what that book's all about. Is the guy behind the veil? You know, and we're always trying to find out who that is.
That's right.
Always. That's all we look for.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing else to look for other than that guy or that girl, you know, that's behind that veil.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, it's crazy to watch the way it plays out. But it's like
Trump is not that guy, you know. And constantly people are like, "Well, what do you think Trump's going to do next?" I'm like, "I don't know. It doesn't matter what he does.
It doesn't matter.
You think I pay attention to that idiot? You think I pay attention to that idiot at all?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This latest fake assassination thing. Listen, I looked at that for like 90 seconds, and I was like, fake. And look, this one guy right beside him. This guy, remember that guy that was right beside him, the magician guy? He holds up a piece of paper, boom, and the shooting starts. And I was like, look, I put that on Twitter right then immediately. I'm like, hey, look, right on cue, flips the paper, and it starts. It's a cue card, right? And people are like, hey, that guy is a magician. Don't you get it, dummy? I'm like, yeah, I get it, actually, dummy. Are you sitting there smoking dope and not seeing what's happening? This is a clear Hollywood set.
Yeah.
It's a clear Hollywood, just like the fake shooting on the Butler thing and all this crap, you know. It's unbelievable. And people say, are you saying those people didn't die? I didn't say that at all. These people kill 10,000 people for a movie set. Like really dead. They'll do 9/11 for a movie set. 9/11 was a movie set.
Yeah.
They're dead. Those people are more than 3,000 people are dead. That was a movie set with real people, real actors. And the actors die in these movies, right?
Yep.
You know, the people jumping out of the windows and stuff.
Yep.
They're dead. They're real people that really died or really burned to death. And that was all a movie set.
Yeah. And people, when we say it's a movie set, they're not understanding the idea that it's just like perceived reality is reality. And if people perceive that was, quote, 9/11 it was an attack by Al Qaeda or whatever bullshit, it's perceived. And
even Al Qaeda was made.
The
United States made Al Qaeda.
Yeah.
Secretary Gates told me that. Face to face, we were together. You know, he's like, yeah. Wow. I mean, you know, not only that, it's well known. I mean, people talk. There's whole books about it. You know, It's not denied at all. United States made Al Qaeda. Look at Israel, United States. They made. Listen, 9/11 was made. Guess where we invaded? Iraq and Afghanistan and other places. But Iraq and Afghanistan, now we had cause ability to do whatever we wanted, right?
Yeah.
And do the Patriot Act and all these other things. So I spent 2 years in Iraq and 2 years in Afghanistan. Look on the map. Those two countries are the bookends of Iran.
Yeah.
The plan was to build up armies there, subdue them, build armies, and attack Iran.
Yeah.
But we failed in both of those wars. And we failed in both of those wars. But if we had succeeded in even one of those wars, that's where we would have invaded Iran from.
Yeah.
With Iranians, with Iraqis, and with Afghans. One or the other, or like the Baluch people or the Kurdish people, right? We would have easily invaded, right? Now, keep in mind, the Israelis have been nurturing a relationship with the Kurds for a long time. That's why a lot of Kurds are actually Zionist, right? Yep. People go, don't you understand? Those are Sunni. I've heard that so many times. Yeah, trust me, I understand. I've been out with Kurds quite a lot in Iraq and other places, right? I totally get it. But they are one of the tools that the Zion, not all of them. Some of the Kurds are very anti-Zionist, but others are actual Zionists, right? But anyway, they're probably some of the sabotage and things that you see happening in Iran, I'm guessing, is happening by Kurds and Baluch people and others, right? Some Kurds are very pro-Iran, others are not. Anyway, it's complex like everything is. But the point is the Baluch people, you know, they'll help overthrow Iran for sure. I mean, I spent a lot of time with Baluch people in Afghanistan. They're if you look at old maps, you'll see Baluchistan right there. They're like, we want our country back, you know.
I mean, it's so wild that, you know, Alexander the Great, he was able to do it, and yet we have all the technology, couldn't do it. You look at the strategy, and it's like, first of all, it doesn't make sense to me because you're going to burn everything in Afghanistan because of the territory is just horrible, and then it's going to get worse when you get to Iran.
He didn't hold it, though.
What?
Alexander didn't hold it, though. He didn't hold it. He died young. You know what I mean? It's not like he went there and then, you know, made an empire out
Well,
of it. I mean, he
that's
died
where all the
young,
blonde and blue eyes come from in Afghanistan and
oh yeah,
Persia,
they'll
is
tell you.
because
The
of
Afghans
interbreeding.
tell you all the time.
Yeah.
Afghans tell you all. Afghans tell you all the time. We're descendants of Alexander the Great. They're proud of it. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's what he did. That's how he knew how to do it. It wasn't taking it over like as a occupying force, but actually to intermarry immediately, taking all his officers and having them specifically go in there and take it over in that manner. And here we're coming in with this Judeo-Christian attitude of like, we're going to go and take over Iran. And it's all just this game that's just being played. And and then you also got the opium in there. And that's the question I have. What did you find? Did you ever hear the stories that were coming out about Pat Tillman and why he was actually killed? Because I heard he was shot at 10 yards. If he was shot at 10 yards, that's not like a friendly fire event where rounds are coming in and you're yelling at people, hey, we're over here. That's an assassination.
There was controversy about that from pretty much day one.
Yeah.
Pretty much day one, there was controversy about that.
But then you don't hear anything about it.
Yeah.
So then the media just like lets it all slush by, and it's like nobody wants to hear about that. Or well, people do want to hear about it, but I don't know if people are ready to hear about that or think about that. And how many people we have
McChrystal actually, remember McChrystal?
Yeah.
General McChrystal, if you recall, like at that time, some of the I think he may have warned the president or a SecDef or somebody, be cautious. Basically, I've forgotten the letter. You could find it online, but basically, he messaged something like, basically be circumspect before, because there's some. Anyway, look what McChrystal said. He was warning people like beware going down that rabbit hole of saying too much about Tillman. You could find the letter. It's been a long time since I looked at it, but I mean, there was, back in the old days, there was suspicions way back when that, there was some cover up going from day one. I don't know. Was he killed because Tillman, as you know, Pat Tillman was turning against the war. For those
turning against the war, but if there was if his unit, if his Ranger unit was dutied with protecting opium fields, that would have probably rubbed him pretty raw, considering the patriotic attitude that he was coming in. If he was a football player and all about being clean, and then to see opium fields as part of their as their major duty, and then that's what I had heard was that the idea that he was just pissed off and he was getting.
I wrote about this. I wrote about this often when I was in Afghanistan, and my first series of dispatches on this were called "The Perfect Evil," which you could find online. And the Perfect Evil were about the opium, and that was 2006.
Okay,
and they're called "The Perfect Evil," and I've got photos. I was out in opium fields all the time over there, all the time. I was there for 2 years, and I was out there with British. I was out there with the U.S. and Afghans, and I asked many British and American commanders many times. I was publishing this. Why are we? This looks like Wizard of Oz crap. I mean, it's like undulating hills of opium growing here, and I would. Why are we doing this? What are we here for? The Taliban didn't allow this, right? But the Taliban didn't allow this, but we are. And I'm talking about opium that's within 5 yards from the base perimeters. I mean, like 5 yards, not 50 yards. I'm talking about with your left hand. If you're right-handed, you could throw a baseball and land in the opium right from the perimeter. I mean, I've seen this all in Lashkar Gah down in Helmand Province and up in Uruzgan and some other places that were like that. I mean, I took many photos. I published many. I was out in that opium all the time with the soldiers. We were getting in combat out there. And
so what was the story about? I mean,
tons of marijuana, but.
What was the story you were being told as to why they weren't burning it or destroying it?
British. I remember one British lieutenant colonel, and he told me, he said something like, because I said, what are we doing? I mean, it's right here. I mean, I see it in the news that they're knocking all this stuff down, but I mean, we're walking through it and not molesting it at all. It's right there. It's like, and not like right over there, like right there, and we're not doing anything. And he said, well, for their economy. I'm like,
okay.
Wait a minute. Hold on. So there's, that was in of those were coming from Afghanistan. That was hold on. So in other words, we're gonna drug up our own people in the United States, and why don't we just give her world? That was the so we're gonna allow our streets with cheap, products from these poppy plants, so that they have an economy here. When I talked with Afghan farmers, I talked with many Afghan farmers. I never met an Afghan farmer that wanted to grow opium. They grew opium. There was reasons why they grew opium, and they told the same story pretty much every time. The reason was, like when the Russians came in, the Soviets, when they came in, they destroyed a lot of the water infrastructure, and they cut down a lot of the pomegranate trees. They destroyed the Carez systems, which are anyway. They destroyed their vineyards and that sort of thing, right? And so, the poppy is very resilient in that weather, and it's a cash crop. Now, if you think about, they would rather grow grapes. They have some incredibly good grapes in Afghanistan, unbelievable. Is a lot of those places were cut down. Their Carez, their underground water systems, which I wrote about quite a bit, the Carez systems, those were destroyed. They blew them up and that sort of thing. Anyway, but the poppy, for various reasons, they went that. Now, the farmers would say, we don't make as much money off of poppy, and it's more work. We make more money off of like grapes and pomegranates. But they destroyed our water system, and they cut down our vineyards, which take 6 to 8 years to start bearing fruit, and that sort of thing. And so they started growing poppy, and the thing. Here's the thing about the value as it goes up the value chain. It's worth a lot more money by the time it lands on the streets in Pakistan or London or whatever, right? But a tomato in the market like 5 kilometers away, you know what I mean, or 20 kilometers away, it's done. You pick it, you sell it, it's done, right? And so it doesn't keep going through where people are making money all along and making huge money. You make the price of a tomato or the price of a pomegranate or whatever, right? And so the value chain ends right there. But what I'm getting to is, for various reasons, but all the farmers were like, we don't like to grow opium, but listen, our Carez system's damaged or destroyed. The pomegranate trees, they cut them down, and all these different things. So they grow opium. And that was it. And they didn't like it. But at the same time, I'm like, this still doesn't add up. I mean, we could easily be rebuilding these Carez systems. Why are we not doing this? If they want, and we built them, like Kajaki Dam, which is in Helmand province there, the water that's used there. And a lot of that water from Kajaki Dam, which was built by Western powers, the United States came in, that water that's used to grow opium now. I'm like, so we made the dam that's used to irrigate the opium.
Wow.
It was made years ago. But what I'm getting to is just like, we literally made an opium place here.
Jeez.
I got to read your book, man, that you told me to read. I mean, I've seen a lot of the stuff on the ground, and I've read a lot about it as well. But there's always, every page you turn is something new. You know what
Isn't it wild? I mean,
every corner you turn when you go to these places.
Yeah, and when you look at that book, you look into the banking, because I mean, they took the banking, and when you look at from the banking point of view, it's unbelievable. It's like we look at like the New World Order and how it ties in, and then if you study like Skull and Bones and about Bush. That was the thing that pissed me off, because when we came back from Central America at the very end, we were told not to talk about what we were doing over there when we were doing pseudo operations. And it was Bush who did that. And when you read about Bush and you learn more about Bush, it's not in that book, it's in another book about Skull and Bones.
Yeah.
And how Skull and Bones, from the get-go, Elihu Yale is what the Yale University is named after. That guy, he made his money off of two things: slavery and opium. And from there on, everything
there you go.
Through. I mean, Bush's great-great-grandfather was like an importer-exporter.
Does it talk about that in here?
Not that
Does
book.
it
It's
talk
another
about
book
that here,
called
or?
Skull and Bones. It's in another book about Skull and Bones. I'll send you a link to that one.
Oh, Skull and Bones.
Yeah, Skull and Bones. It's written by
Gary the Cannibal
Chris
used to
Milligan.
say he was in
What's that?
Chris Milligan.
Chris
Gary the
Milligan.
Cannibal, that cannibal I tracked down. I told you about the Agor.
Yeah.
This. I was gonna say. I was gonna say about Skull and Bones. I told you about that cannibal I tracked down, the American cannibal in India. His name. He was. Anyway, long story. Never mind. I'll save it for a different time. But he used to joke, "I'm in Skull and Bones, Michael." He was a cannibal. Anyway, it's a sort of a dark joke, but for cannibals, he was pretty funny. Let's see.
When you see what's happening,
I'll find that book.
So, Michael, when you see what's happening now, and we see what the history is of all going through the opium wars and the fentanyl with the Chinese now, and before they had the opium, because they've been dealing opium into the United States at the behest because of the English, because the Bank of England and the Rothschilds, and then they tie into the what's the triad? Yeah, the triad in China. They've been doing the drug war against the United States all the way back in the 1800s. Importing opium into San Francisco, and then bringing it out. And then it's glamorized in movies like Bill Huck.
I gotta tell you something.
Yeah,
I gotta tell you something. Okay, so I was in Panama, as you know. I spent a year there, and I spent a lot of the time in the library at Balboa, next to one of those ports that BlackRock's trying to buy. And that library it's the most amazing Panama canal. So I spent a couple of days going through old shipping records from the 1800s.
No. Wow.
And it was and I took I have the photos here because I was photographing the pages on a lot of the books. And those books were talking about Chinese that were coming from Hong Kong generally, and it was talking about the speed of the ships, and the people that were on them, and how many days it took, and yada yada yada. But every boat that came from China with Chinese, it also said they were carrying opium, and they were going to San Francisco. What you just said in that same time period, I was finding it in the original records, which I will have right here actually on this iPad. I could look them up. That's wild. But did you ever see those old records? They got the original, not original records, but it's a books that are quite old.
Yeah.
And it's got all the shipping records. At that time they were doing competition for how many days did it take to cross. I remember one ship did it in 43 days. One ship was 43 days, and that was pretty spectacular.
But what you're saying is so spot on with the idea that they left specifically from Hong Kong. So Hong Kong, remember, it was a British colony, and so that's where the Bank of England.
That's right.
They were doing the business.
Yep.
They didn't care where the money came from.
You're making me put things together here that I didn't put together before. But let me. I'm going to try to find one of these, and I'm going to read it out to you, and then I'll send one to you. Let's see.
And I'll give you a lead into the Caribbean, man. That just floors me. It floors me on the banking. Look into banking in what everybody is trying to hide their money over in the Caribbean, like St. Croix and all these places, and St. Thomas.
Right.
That's old school.
Right.
That is old.
Ain't no way to hide money in those places.
Yeah, but they're British banks. They're British banks, every one of them. And they've been doing it all the way back into the 1800s. And they were doing it when they were bringing opium in here into the United States. And they would change, and that's where the change would occur. And you look into delve into the Diamond Opium Exchange. This is in the 1800s, and it's in Hong Kong.
Opium Exchange. I had to restart this.
In Hong Kong.
Diamond Opium Exchange.
Yeah, they were exchanging.
So was that how they laundered opium? Was through diamonds, or
they were paying for the opium with the diamonds. So the Brits were paying with the diamonds and getting the opium from the Chinese, and then they were shipping it to other places. They were shipping it to the United States.
Oh.
And a real famous addict of opium was when he was having vision degeneration was Wild Bill Hickok.
Really?
Yeah.
Another famous opium addict that I have right here is he was one of the superstars of the silent movies.
Huh.
And he died of opium stuff. Yeah.
Oh wow.
And what was his name? I've got a book on his life that his mother wrote, actually right around here somewhere. It's on the other table over there. But he was a super. His name was oh, good Lord. Anyway, there's so many Americans that died of opium in the 1800s. A lot of it. I mean, they were selling it, and you could go into a general store, get opium, cocaine, a bottle of whiskey, and some dynamite and a shotgun, and have a good July 4th. I mean, so,
Yeah, I mean, there's so many ties that go in there with like what was the stuff that was coming out of the South, and it actually contributed to the assassination of Lincoln, and it was the bankers who made the request for killing Lincoln, and it ties into actually the opium trade again. It's wild.
Oh,
But
I'm
it's the
unable to
bankers.
search. I wanted to read this out loud to you because I thought it would be fascinating, but it doesn't allow me to search for some reason. Interesting, huh? Anyway, something's wrong with the. Anyway, but this is fascinating because what you're talking about with the opium coming over from, because those records, I spent a lot of time going through those records, and I was just looking for, and every ship that came in from there, they had Chinese on them and opium, and they were listing the opium as cargo. It wasn't like hidden.
So they arrived in Panama, but the canal was not finished.
No,
right?
no,
So,
they were arriving to San Francisco.
oh, direct. Oh, okay. You just found the book down in Panama.
Oh yeah, I found the book because I was
Okay.
going through. I was researching Panama Canal and shipping and that sort of thing.
But yes,
Let's see.
So
Yeah.
they did. So
Oh,
yeah, 'cause the
here's
canal
one
wasn't
of the
done.
records right here. Here's one of the records right here.
Uh-huh.
And the name of the ship. Okay, this is November 13th, 1864. And here we go. Here we go, man. It goes. Okay, the type is a Hamp, whatever that is. Ship name is Arakan, and it's from Hong Kong, China. And the captain is Kulkan. And anyway, passage 77 days from Hong Kong via Nagasaki, Japan. 41 days was 30 days in China seas with fine weather. Put into Nagasaki for water and provisions. Cargo 47 packages of opium, 8,775 bags of rice, 946 cakes sugar, 250 gunny bags, 550 rolls matting, 100 baskets ginger, 14 cartons of champagne, 5 millstones, and 4,109 packages of merchandise. And it says the passengers was William Thorne, Captain so-and-so Johnson without his first name, Mr. and Miss something without first name Pole, and some other people, and a couple of others, and it's got these names. And then it says 91 unidentified Chinese.
91.
They were
Wow.
always, with the Chinese, they were always saying unidentified,
Yeah.
in every one of these. So this one, I could send you this, actually. Let me send you this so you have it. And
Okay.
because I've got a bunch of these. I spent a lot of time going through those, a couple days, like I said, and that one will be in your inbox
Okay.
in
Thanks.
just a second. But yeah, isn't that fascinating? It was just record after record bringing opium and Chinese into San Francisco.
Yeah, I got it
Yeah.
right now.
No, this one. Okay, this is okay. Go ahead.
No, I'm just looking at the list, ship's list. Oh, the Arno. Oh, it's from
see
Trinidad,
it?
California. Oh, no kidding. And it's a schooner. Okay.
No, that's the record before, right? Is that the record before?
Oh, that's the one before.
No, that's the record before.
Yeah, Hong
Yeah.
Kong. Kulkin. That's a German name. Looks like a
Yeah.
German name.
And then there's I got a bunch of those things. I photographed a whole ton of them. I would love to just get my hands on those books. I asked the library if they sell any of the books, and they're like, nope.
Huh.
Because, some of these libraries are just ditching books, and I would hate to see those things thrown away. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting when you look at it and you compare that coming from China and then compare the other one coming in from Havre, France. Captain Gouin.
I've got
H-
dozens of those here. I'll send them
Dang.
all to you if I can.
And see,
But
they're
this
getting
is
fruit,
like, for
sardines,
instance,
and barrels of pork.
These books.
Huh.
I've got dozens of those photos right here. If I can, I'll send them to you, and I can somehow. I'll send them to you. But like, here's another one. Here's another one here. This one is from this one's ship Aurora, and it's from Hong Kong, China, September 11th, 1862. Captain Clough, 48 days from Hong Kong. That's pretty fast. Left there on July 24th, 1862, with light winds from southwest. On August 10th, 1862, was in a hurricane, split fore and mainsail in taking them in. By 9 p.m., barometer was 29-40, lost fore topsail, could not take in main topsail. Cargo, rice, ginger, 40 boxes of opium, tea, silk, sugar, peas, coffee, and passengers were so-and-so Tucker, somebody Lindstrom, and somebody Miller, and 188 unidentified Chinese.
Huh.
Sounds like they had an eventful trip. Yeah.
Well, they went to work real quick when they got to San Francisco. That was 1850. Oh, shoot. That was 64. So that was after the gold rush.
No, that one was 1862 that I just sent you.
Oh,
I just told you.
The one you just sent, I thought
I'll
that
send that
was
one to you.
64.
That was the first one. The one that I just read to you was 1862. Yeah.
Yeah, because that was right after the war.
Here's another.
The War of Secession. Yep.
Yeah. So there's another one right there.
So you've mentioned in the past.
Here's a funny one. Okay, this is from. I remember reading this one when I was in Panama. Okay, this is the ship was called the Balmoral, and type is a bark ship, British, and from Sydney, Australia. December 31st, 1850 is when it arrived. Captain Pride. So passage 70 days, from Sydney, Australia via Honolulu, 16 days. Made an extraordinary short passage from New South Wales of 53 sailing days without. Notwithstanding, she was within 100 miles of San Francisco the last 4 days. It's because they were stuck because of the winds. Yeah. Anyway, 2 kegs of acid, 157 mats. I wonder what kind of acid. I wonder if it was like sulfuric acid or something. I wonder what it was.
Sulfuric, or what would be the other one?
But anyway,
sulfuric or sulfuric would have been.
Reading these old records. Reading these old records are amazing. Yeah.
Well, they give you an idea what their intent was, and so here you've got slaves and you've got drugs coming from opiates coming from China, and then you've got the next line down, which is from France, and they're bringing in salt pork and sardines, and just a few passengers with French names, and that's it. And then the other one, you can tell the commerce. Okay, so if you look at that passenger. One of the passenger, he's a captain. He's a Captain Johnson. You see that one in the in the drug run, the opium run.
Yep.
So if you think about it, it's just like with aviation, with airlines. So that guy was probably on a ship that went to Hong Kong, and he's on the way back to go get another boat to go from San Francisco, an empty boat, or it's transporting something from San Francisco out to Hong Kong.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Like he could be basically, he could be,
He probably works for the same line. I bet you he works for the same line. That's why he's on that boat going back to San Francisco, because he just took a boat across. And see, now that's what I'd be really curious, because if we're talking about bankers.
Oh, you saw the same guy show up on 2 different records, is what you're saying?
No, I'm just seeing the idea that he's listed as a captain, but he's a passenger. Yeah. He's a captain, but he's a passenger.
Yeah.
You see him, Johnson?
Oh, right.
So that means that he works for that line. That line that is coming back from Hong Kong is probably based in San Francisco.
Here's one about a volcanic eruption. This is April 19th, 1852. The ship is called the Vandalia, and it's a type as a U.S. sloop of war from Honolulu. And then it says... Captain is William H. Gardner, and actually then it's got parenthetical Gardiner. They don't know if that's spelled correctly. Anyway, passages 18 days. It mentions a volcano here. Passage 18 days from Honolulu, Sandwich Islands. Back then it was called Sandwich Islands. Honolulu, Sandwich Islands. So that's why it says from Honolulu.
Where was the volcano? Was that in Hawaii?
Oh, here I'll read it. Oh, I'll read it. Passage 18 days from Honolulu, Sandwich Islands, where the vessel has been stationed for last 5 months, brings intelligence that the great eruption of Mauna Loa, which is Hawaii, has greatly abated. News is also brought of the 39th anniversary of the birth of His Majesty Kamehameha III. His Majesty reviewed a large number of Hawaiian troops. The review was highly satisfactory and reflected great credit upon Lieutenant Jacob Reed of the USS Vandalia, who had been indefatigable in his efforts to drill his first levy of Hawaiian troops. There you go. The drill proved that Hawaiians are capable of being disciplined into soldier-like appearance under competent officers. That's a major hit. That's a major little thing right there. You know, they're going in there making that local army out of Hawaiians.
Yeah.
That's how you do it, man.
Yep.
And that's what I'm talking about. About Iraq and Afghanistan was all about, right? This is it. This is it.
Because at that time they still had the Queen,
Yeah.
right? The Queen Kamehameha.
Here, I'm gonna send you that one.
Yeah, let me look at that one too.
What year did she die? She didn't die until like the 1890s or something, right? I don't remember.
Real late into the 1800s.
I don't remember.
Yeah, real late into the 1800s. So, I mean, if you're looking at
yeah.
what's happening right now with the way the world is going, where do you see? Because now we're into the point of they're really trying to like lock people down and thin us out. So how the powers that be, all these different cabals, how are they going to, not tactically, but strategically use the drugs to incorporate that? And remember, I had talked about it. We could talk about it on a later date, which is what I told you, what they're doing up here in Alaska with the feds. So the feds are locking out lands that we as Alaska residents should be able to hunt. But they're going to say, they're making it a racist thing. They're going to say that only Indians are allowed to hunt there. But that's a lot of land. It's almost like 50% of this country that we fly into all the time.
Right.
That's cutting into our food because we live just like the natives do or the tribes do. So if you're cutting us out and we live rurally, you're taking the food from people, and it's the feds who are doing it. That's
So they're trying to cut
crazy.
off your protein.
Yeah.
So they're not going to let you hunt in Alaska.
In that area, and the natives, a lot of them don't hunt because they don't go out and hunt because they get free food being sent in on planes. Ted Stevens did a bad number on the natives in this area when he gave all this free money to the native tribes. They don't even call themselves tribes. I mean, I'm related to the Oglala Sioux. You know, that's a tribe and that's a reservation. Up here, they're corporations. They're called native corporations. That should tell you everything you didn't know. It's
Right.
a corporation.
Right.
So if it's a corporation
Yeah.
and not a tribe, what the hell are they doing getting all this free money? It's wild. And it's not done anything for them. It's kind of like on the reservations where it's a perfect example, of socialism. You want to see socialism at its best, meaning its worst? Go to a reservation, seeing everybody drunk on the side of the road, people dying, freezing to death because they don't have the wherewithal to go and keep themselves warm. Even with all the free money that's coming, that's how you kill a people. That's how you kill a people.
Oh yeah. Oh
know?
yeah. Masako and I went up to Yellowknife in Northwest
Yeah.
Territories a couple years ago. And those Indians, it was sad. It was sad. I mean, the Indians were really messed up in bulk.
Yeah.
From that
In
alcohol.
bulk.
And the
In
people were
bulk.
talking about
Yeah.
like they like a mall downtown in Yellowknife was mostly closed because there was shops open there. We went in there, but like a coffee shop there, they're like, we can't keep any chairs here because the Indians are just drunk. They fall asleep on the chairs and stuff. Here, I'm sending you another one that's very interesting. This is super interesting here. This is the most interesting one I'm sending you. That's the one where they're raising up the Hawaiian army.
Gotcha. Just got
right
it.
there.
Yep.
That's key. Yeah. I need to send that to Al Johnson. Actually, I don't know if I sent that to him at the time. Yeah, I'm gonna send that to him right now. Al Johnson, he would be a great guy for you to talk with. He's a former EOD
who is
officer,
he?
but he's a
Who's
bookworm
Al?
like we are.
Who is
So
he?
I mean, he hits. His name is Al Johnson. He's a former EOD officer, but he's a private investigator now. But he and I, we've gone off to. He used to teach counterterrorism in like Thailand and
Cool.
Indonesia, Malaysia. Like I've gone to his counterterrorism training. I went to his counterterrorism training in Thailand, where he trained the Thai army and police, trained the U.S. The U.S. Marine showed up, U.S. Navy, U.S. Army, and also, oh gosh, many Indonesians, Indians. And so I went down to his training in Jakarta as well in Indonesia. So, but anyway, he and I have been fighting China. We were fighting CCP for years, still do. But now, as you can imagine, the fight has morphed. But so he and I, we went to Indonesia, we went to Malaysia and Thailand and Japan and all these different many countries, and Panama and Guatemala. We went to all these places looking into this stuff, and so he's got a Substack called Historical Detective Agency. In fact,
Historical
he just did a
Detective
really good,
Agency. Okay, I'll go read his stuff. Okay,
and so he.
Oh, and just to let everybody know who's listening right now,
he's brilliant.
So remember,
so,
I always
he's part bookworm and part It went quiet.
Yeah, can you hear me now? Yeah,
Yep.
I can hear you. So what I'm doing is I just make sure,
and so
but
yeah,
go ahead.
I'm here. It's just breaking up a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not getting any.
No, go ahead. You were saying something. I'll be quiet. I'm
so what I always try to remind everybody is that I always put I put links in the first comment. So anything we're talking about, I always put links directly to whatever content or anything we talk about. So again, for people to go and check out Al Johnson's piece, it's Historical Detective what?
Alfred Johnson. Johnson. It's called Historical Detective Agency. He's on Substack, and he's so Al Johnson and historical detective. Yeah, and so he's and so or what does he call it? The Historical Detective Agency or historic. Anyway, I even though I go on his page, I was just watching one thing that he did. Historical Detective Agency. Yeah, but he did a good one on how to read a book, which is interesting. It may sound like kind of boring, but it's actually very, very interesting how to read a book, and for investigative reasons. It's very, very interesting. So he's a guy who ever. He's quite brilliant. Again, he did he did the Iraq thing and some other stuff, and so he was off in that war. And then he used to teach counterterrorism in different countries and that sort of stuff. But now he's a private detective, and we've been fighting evil for a long time. Which is like cleaning up. It's like sponging up a hurricane.
Oh yeah, yeah. Especially with how much time has been put into this for, centuries with the stuff going with the drugs. And people, they look at the drug and it seems innocuous, that it's just something to just take your mind off something or take a little pain off. But the point is that it's weaponized through how you get on something and then you can't get off of it. And then they're making a major profit, not only off of getting people hooked on drugs, but then as a result, they get the government to create the agency to go after it militarily, and then it makes it a situation where, quote, the mafia or the gang that's selling it, suddenly the price of what they're selling doubles and triples and quadruples in price, and that's where the profit comes, and that profit goes directly to where they keep it, which is the bankers, and the bankers will take that, quote. There's one quote that says, "We don't care about how or the silver is got. We just take the silver." So that's the mentality of how this is done. You there?
Right.
Yep.
Right.
So how?
Right.
So
this whole know your customer stuff that banks are for. Yeah, I'm here.
So, in the research that you've done physically, and then also the stuff that you've done in the different types of documents, how are you seeing this playing out as things go into the next stage? Because it looks like it's all going into a next stage, and You've talked with David Dubain about like the solar minimums. Have you seen how the effects of solar minimums are affecting the weather and how that's affecting how people interact with opiates and various types of drugs in terms of how it's being used
Yeah.
for or
Now,
against them?
yeah. Now keep in mind when it comes keep in mind when it comes to all the solar minimums and all that stuff. I'm not, I don't know what's causing all this. I don't know, like Dane Wigington talks about weather modification really happening. That's obvious, right?
Mhm.
And but so it could be, these are not mutually exclusive. It could be both. It could be other things as well. So I mean, there's clearly things happening. We can clearly see everything that can be weaponized is weaponized, and they're clearly, some of the powers that be are clearly trying to cause global depopulation, and it's working. I mean, they successfully ran a global jab campaign, and it really got huge numbers of people to take it, right? And it's already killed huge numbers. We don't even know what the effects are. We don't know what the ultimate effects are. We have no idea. I mean, we may never know, but it's obviously terrible. It's obvious. Another thing that they're clearly doing is food.
Yeah.
And reducing the energy, obviously, like not just closing Strait of Hormuz temporarily to make a point. No, they're like blowing up, energy all over the place. And people can say, well, they're doing that to fight Iran. That's bullshit. Then why are they doing the same thing all over the world, right? Yeah. Why are they stopping fertilizer production in all over the world if it's about Iran? And they've been, what I mean? It's just nonsense. None of these things fit that fact pattern, not even vaguely fit the fact pattern that this is about Iran. Yeah. This is about global population. If you look at this through a paradigm and let's say a lens of global depopulation and controlling the remnant, everything falls right into place. Everything makes perfect sense. If you look at it through the paradigm, this is a banker's war, you're going to see all kinds of stuff that doesn't make sense. Yeah. You're going to be like, well, if it's a banker's war, why are they doing this? That doesn't make sense. They must be idiots. And if it's an energy war, no, that doesn't make sense. This doesn't make. If it's an energy war, then why are they using lawfare to cut farmers out of their farms, right? Nope. If it's an energy, you know what I mean? If it's an energy war, why are they, not trying to knock Amish out, that sort of thing? Yeah. That doesn't make sense. These don't fit the fact pattern. But one thing that fits the fact pattern perfectly and is predictive, that's very important. I mean, is that they're doing population reduction on a huge scale. Yeah. That fits the fact pattern in writing many times that the United States / Israel likely would close the Strait of Hormuz and blame it on Iran. I put that in writing multiple times in 2025, said it on many interviews, and then boom, it happened, right? Iran hasn't closed the Strait of Hormuz. United States is, and now we've got the United States clearly threatening to close Malacca, right? That the fact pattern. It fits, it doesn't, not even vaguely. You see what's going on down in Argentina. I think you're going to eventually see a war between Brazil and Argentina. Yeah. And that will be sponsored by the Zionists for I think, Argentina attacking Brazil. Now, they may do false flags and stuff. Yeah. And it may look like it came from a different direction because that's how these things. But first, I think it'll probably happen in this order. First, Argentina will go for Malvinas, the Falklands, and then they'll go for the Falklands and get that done. This is what I'm guessing. Let's see how it really plays out, and then eventually a fight with Brazil. Now, because keep in mind, if you want to cause global famine, it would be helpful to cut off food supplies from Brazil to places like China. So one way to do that is to control the Panama Canal. You don't let those ships go through. And another is you control the bioceanic corridor that they're making through Brazil, Paraguay, Argentina, and Chile, right? And Masako and I went down and looked at that about a year or so ago. And you would want to cut the Drake Passage, the strait around the South America, right? You want to control these different places, and so that the food just doesn't flow. If you can just make it not flow or greatly reduce the flow for 6 months,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big deal. A lot of people are going to die in that amount of time. Massive. And so, and it's easy to do. They're setting up, they're getting in position to do these things, like with the agreements we've just made with Indonesia as an example, the United States. But also there's a lot of basing agreements now up in Finland and Denmark and Norway and Sweden, more than 40 basing agreements. We've got carte blanche. We can do all kinds of attacks from those bases that nobody would know about.
Yeah.
I mean, they say that those drones that attacked those 2 Russian refineries, which is about 3 weeks ago or so. Was that right? They say those drones came from Ukraine. Did they? They may have come straight from Finland. They may have come from a boat out in the Baltic. I mean, and, more likely they probably came from a boat or a submarine or something in the Baltic, right? More likely they came from something like that, right? And they probably didn't come all the way from Ukraine. They probably came from Finland, Norway, Sweden, even, and not from those countries, but from military presence that we are, say, the Zionists have there, or just off of ships / submarines. I mean, the easiest way would be off ships, right?
Yeah.
You could just have one container, launch the drones. Nobody would ever know.
Yeah. Now, that thing that you mentioned about Argentina, I mean, you've said that it's war with Brazil.
There?
You hear me?
Okay. Yeah.
So
Looks
the war
like
with Brazil, I mean, I see
having
that. I
our
also see
problems.
with all the Zionists going in and burning property and taking over property that they got Malay to give them at a really good deal. You know, that's going to be the new Palestine. That's going to be the new Tel Aviv, because they're all running out of Israel. And the attack with Iran was never supposed to win. It will not win. They picked Iran because they are not going to win there. But what it does is it enables the Zionists and the Israelis to leave and run to where Herzl had said, in his book, what was the name of that book that he wrote? I just spaced out on it. The book that was used as to a Jewish state. In the Jewish state, he actually proposes Patagonia as a place for Jews to go.
It's right here.
Yeah.
It's right here.
Yeah.
I got it right here.
Instead of going to, so instead of going to Palestine.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the show. And if you would, please like and subscribe, because I'm wanting to get dialogue going. The more you share this with other people, the more they talk about it, the more you're having conversations with other people, you're starting to remind people what it means to be an American for Americans. And, if you're a critical thinker around the world, more power to you. Get your people thinking. This is how you take back the world from these people. You don't let them keep you in a stupor. You don't let them keep you hypnotized by all the crap media that they've got and they've controlled. That's how they've been winning. They've kept us from thinking like our parents and our grandparents and our great-grandparents and our ancestors. That's what we need to start thinking like. We got to be asking questions, and we need to be dialoguing with each other. That's the reason they don't want us to be interacting with each other. That's why they've got us on internet. That's why they've got us on technologies. They remember what happens when colonials got together in taverns and talked, and they saw what was wrong, and they made a change. And I hope that we do that, because if not, we are lost. On that note, God bless. Watch your six.